Yes, students, now we are going to discuss histology of spinal cord. Yes, spinal cord is the downward continuation of medulla oblongata through the foramen magnum. The spinal cord suspends in the upper two-thirds of vertebral canal. It is about 18 inches long in adults. The regions of the spinal cord are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. In the cervical and lumbar region, there are enlargements due to enlargement of anterior horn cells, many anterior horn cells that project to the structures. Cervical enlargement project to the upper lip and lumbar enlargement project to the lower lip. And conus medullaris is the lower tapering end of the spinal cord, and you know that the spinal cord in adults ends at the level of lower border of first lumbar vertebra. And cauda equina are the spinal nerves, as we know that the upper in the cervical region spinal nerves they run horizontally, and as you go down the spinal nerves become oblique and more oblique and more vertical, and in the lower region the spinal nerves they descend vertically in the vertebral canal and form a bunch shaped structure that is called cauda equina. Phylum terminal is the termination of pia mater below the conus medullaris. This is the picture showing cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. And these enlargement results from enlargement of the gray matter, that is anterior horn cells, that contains nuclei that supply the upper limb from the cervical enlargement and lower limb from the lumbosacral enlargement. So we have 31 segments of spinal cord, 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral, and 1 coccygeal. Now we are going to start histology. If we take a cross section of a spinal cord, we can see the gray matter and white matter. Gray matter is outside and white matter is outside and gray matter is inside in the form of H-shaped or blood or butterfly shape. You know what is white matter? White matter consists of the tracts. What are the tracts? Tracts are the collection of fibers or axons, maybe ascending, maybe descending, and these are myelinated. And gray matter is collection of nuclei, and nuclei are the collection of cell bodies of the neuron. So in the spinal cord, we have two lateral gray mosses connected by gray commission, and posterior projections are the posterior horns, and anterior projections are called the ventral horns or anterior horns. In the thoracic and lumbar region, there also exist lateral horns. These lateral horns they contain the autonomic nuclei. And anterior horn they contain motor nuclei, and posterior horn have sensory nuclei. This is the picture. This is transverse section of spinal cord. In each half, we can see the gray matter. Gray matter we have posterior horn and anterior horn, and this is gray commission that connect the gray matter of the right and left side. And in the sacral region, we have these lateral horns, and also in the lumbar of upper two, in the thoracic upper two lumbar region, we have lateral horns for the autonomic nuclei. So this is the posterior horn, and this is the anterior horn. Now, white matter and gray matter. Size of the cord segment. The more superior, the more white matter. Why? Because all the sensory pathways are going to the brain in the thalamus, and as the fibers are coming from the lower limb or lower parts of the body, they are lying more medially in the spinal cord, and fibers from the upper region, they are more laterally. So as you go up, the white matter becomes increased. And gray matter is larger in cervical and lumbar region. Why? Because in cervical region, they contain the nuclei that supply the upper limb, and in the lumbar and sacral region, they have the nuclei, motor nuclei that supply the lower limb. So in this picture, we can see the different shapes in different regions of spinal cord. In gray matter, anterior horn is motor, posterior horn is sensory, and lateral horn is autonomic. And gray commissure is anterior gray commissure, that is anterior to the central canal, and posterior gray commissure is the gray commissure posterior to the central canal. The gray commissure connects the right and left gray horns. This is central canal, and here is the gray commissure. This anterior gray commissure, posterior gray commissure, and these are the posterior horn, anterior horn, and here is lateral horn. White matter called the columns. We have anterior white column, posterior white column, and lateral white column. And these white matter are anterior, posterior, and lateral white column. They contain the tracts, ascending and descending. Both types of tracts are present in the columns, but the posterior white column contain only the ascending tracts, no descending tract. And only two ascending tracts, we can say that posterior white column is full of only two ascending tracts, that is fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. These are responsible for carrying proprioceptions and fine touch. Gracilis from the lower half of the body below the head and neck, and cuneatus from the upper half of the body below the head and neck. In this picture, we can see this is the gray posterior gray column, posterior gray horn, this is anterior gray horn, and here is white, anterior white column, posterior white column, and lateral white column. Gray matter contains the nuclei, but the gray matter are arranged longitudinally as layers. These are called the lamina and rexit. Named this lamina, so these lamina are called the lamina of rexit. So lamina 1 is the posterior marginal nucleus. Here is lamina 1, here is lamina 2, 3, and 4 like this, from posterior to anterior. So lamina 2 is important, that contains substantia gelatinosa afferendo. This is the nucleus responsible for pain and temperature, and it forms the cell body of second order neuron for pain and temperature. And anterior to lamina 2 is lamina 3 and 4 that contain nucleus proprius, and nucleus proprius contains cell bodies of the second order neuron for the simple touch sensation. And then we have lamina 5 and 6 that contain proprioceptive sensations, neuron for proprioceptive sensations, and lamina 7 has intermediate gray column, and lamina 9 is important, that contain anterior horn cells, that is motor nuclei in the anterior gray horn, that is in lamina 9. In this picture, we can see here is lamina 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9. So these lamina are longitudinally arranged layers. Here we see in the transverse section like this. This picture showing the tracks and the gray matter and the tracks. As we told that this is posterior gray column, and posterior gray column contain posterior white, sorry, posterior white column. Posterior white column contain only the two ascending tracks, that is fasciculus gracilis, and lateral one is fasciculus cuneatus. Here is fasciculus gracilis and here is fasciculus cuneatus. And in the lateral white column and uh, anterior white, we have both ascending and descending tracks. In this picture, also showing posterior white column contain only the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and here is lateral white column and anterior white column. In the lateral and anterior white column, the most important ascending tracts are the lateral spinothalamic tract and ventral spinothalamic tract. Here is lateral spinothalamic tract and here is ventral spinothalamic tract. These tracts are important. Why? Because the lateral spinothalamic tract, they carry the sensations of pain and temperature from the opposite half of the body, and ventral spinothalamic tract carry the sensations for simple touch from the opposite half of the body. So these sensations from the senses receptors, they enter in the dorsal root ganglia, but no synapse occur in the dorsal root ganglia. The central process of dorsal root ganglion enter in the spinal cord. Those fibers carrying the pain and temperature, these fibers they synapse in the substantia gelatinosa of Rulendo. Then they cross the midline in the gray commissure and then ascends upwards in the lateral spinothalamic tract, and then they ascend in the brain stem and they form the spinal meniscus. Then they enter in the thalamus where they synapse in the PLBNT, posterior lateral mental nucleus of thalamus, that form the cell body of the third order neuron, and from the PLBNT in the thalamus, these fibers ascend in the in through the internal capsule and corona radiata in sensory cortex. So these are the, but the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, they carry the proprioceptions and fine touch from the same half of the body, from the ipsilateral side, because cell body of the second order neuron part, these sensations are located not in the spinal cord but in the brain stem, in the medulla oblongata, nucleus gracilis, and nucleus cuneatus. On the axons from nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, they will cross in the midline and they will ascend as the medial meniscus, then they will enter in PLBNT thalamus, then the same. So these are the, and the descending, important descending fibers are lateral cortico-spinal tract and ventral cortico-spinal tract. Here is ventral corticospinal tract and here is lateral corticospinal tract. These corticospinal tract are the motor tracts, efferent pathways. They start from the motor nuclei in the cerebral cortex. From the motor nuclei in the cerebral cortex, they descend and in the corona radiata, then they form a bundle that are present in the anterior one-third of posterior limb of internal capsule. Then they enter in the crus cerebri of midbrain. Then they form the skeletal bundles in the bones, and in the medulla oblongata, they are collected on the anterior aspect, form the pyramid. And in the pyramid, these fibers decussate, they cross the opposite side. And when they descend in the spinal cord, they descend as the lateral cortico-spinal tract. But And then there's synapse with the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord. But some fibers do not cross in the medulla, then these fibers as uncrossed descends in the spinal cord as the ventral corticospinal tract. So these are the tracts, ascending tracts. Modalities of the sensations are touch, pain, temperature, and kinesthesia. Receptors for external sensations are located in the skin. They are exteroceptors, interoceptors in the viscera, and proprioceptors receptors are located in the muscle sphincter. Primary neurons for all these sensations are located in the dorsal root ganglion. Dorsal root ganglion is a ganglion that is applied to the dorsal root of the spinal nerve, having the peripheral process and central process. Central process enter in the spinal cord, where these fibers in the spinal cord synapse in the spinal cord are sometimes not synapse. In case of proprioceptions and fine touch, they will synapse on the same side in the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus in medulla oblongata. So cell bodies are the first order neuron of all the sensations is in the posterior root ganglion. So posterior root ganglion forms the primary neuron, secondary neuron or in the spinal cord or in the brain stem. And cell body of the third order neuron are in the thalamus. And from the thalamus, these fibers terminate in the all the sensory fibers. Cerebral cortex for conscious sensations. Some fibers enter in the cerebellar cortex or brain stem. This is the, again same picture of showing the different tracts of the spinal cord. Here we can see again in the posterior white column, no descending tract, only ascending tracts. Medial is fasciculus gracilis and lateral is fasciculus cuneatus. And here ascending tract are the lateral spinothalamic tract. This is lateral spinothalamic tract and anterior spinothalamic tract. And descending tract important are lateral corticospinal tract and this lateral corticospinal tract and anterior corticospinal tract. This is pathway of pain and temperature as we discussed. For pain and temperature receptors in the skin, then these are first order neuron is posterior root ganglia, then they enter in the spinal cord synapse in the substantia gelatinosa apodendo. Then these axons they cross the opposite side through the gray commissure and ascend in the spinal cord in the lateral spinothalamic tract and in the brainstem they form the spinal lemniscus and in the thalamus they enter and synapse with the posterior lateral ventral nucleus of thalamus. Then they go through the posterior two-third of posterior limb of internal capsule, corona radiata, and sensory cortex. So this is the picture showing the same thing, and this is fine touch and proprioception. In this fine touch and proprioception, fibers from the dorsal root ganglia enter the spinal cord, but they do not synapse. No, they do not synapse. They do not cross in the spinal cord. They ascend in the same side in the posterior white column in the fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus. Then these fibers will synapse in the medulla oblongata and nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. From here, these fibers will cross the opposite side and they form and then they will ascend as the medial meniscus, then the same thing. And this is descent. Again, picture of descending tracts. These are descending tracts. These descending tracts, these actually the tracts are the descending fibers, motor fibers, efferent fibers. These form the upper motor neuron. These start from the motor nuclei in the cerebral cortex and they descending in the corona radiata, then they enter in the internal capsule for the head and neck, for the cranial and motor nuclei, they fall in the genu of the internal capsule for the below the head and neck in the anterior one third of posterior to posterior limb of internal capsule, then they enter in the midbrain, crus cerebri, pons, medulla oblongata, that is in the medulla oblongata. This is pyramidal decussation to the opposite side, lateral cortical spine. Some fibers do not cross, they form the anterior corticospinal tract, but both fibers, they synapse, they end in the anterior horn cells. This is end of our lecture. Thank you very much. Now you can enjoy and take a cup of